The final role is, again, a sponsorship role, but one we talk about as a CHDO affiliate, right? And there's really sort of three flavors to this. The first is that in some cases, CHDOs, for a variety of good reasons, instead of themselves directly wanting to own the rental property, want to set up a wholly owned subsidiary that will be a single purpose, single asset entity to own the apartment building, right? Usually you do this for liability reasons. And so it's permissible for the CHDO to not itself directly own the property, but to either own or develop it through a wholly owned subsidiary. So that would be sponsorship with a CHDO affiliate. The other two flavors of sponsorship with a CHDO affiliate are really about tax credit transactions. And that's where, instead of it being a wholly owned subsidiary that has title, what you're doing is you're developing it through a syndicated entity, either a limited partnership or a limited liability company. So the terminology changes a little bit, but the structure essentially is expected to be the same. So long as the CHDO or a wholly owned subsidiary of the CHDO is the sole general partner of the limited partnership or the sole managing member of the LLC, then even though you're only going to own like 0.01% of the ownership entity, it's still a CHDO-sponsored property. Because within those tax credit transactions, even though your ownership of the entity that holds title to the property is numerically very small, you actually have the day-to-day control. That's how those work. We're going to dig into this a little bit more in 1 second. A couple of things about that. Anytime the CHDO, we're going through the CHDO sponsorship affiliate role, the written agreement and the flow of funds needs to be from the PJ directly to the ownership entity. Directly to, for example, the limited partnership that will own the transaction. What we used to see in the past was that many times the PJ would make a grant to the CHDO, and the CHDO would turn around and loan the money to the limited partnership that it was creating. That is not a permissible structure. The PJ needs to provide the funds directly to the ownership entity. If we're using a limited partnership or a limited liability structure in a tax credit transaction, the organizational documents, either the partnership agreement or the managing or the operating agreement, right? Potato, potato, just different terms for the different types of entities, can only allow the CHDO to be removed for cause. And if the CHDO is removed, they need to be replaced with another CHDO. So the written agreement needs to kind of call that out, and the partnership agreement or the operating agreement needs to specify that if the CHDO were removed, it would be replaced with another CHDO. Okay? So a lot of people that look at the tax credit deals, and we've got this for you on the back side of the sheet that had the project timeline, just in bigger form, are used to seeing these structures kind of drawn out. Right? So for those of us that are more visual learners, this is the classic structure of a limited partnership in the way that we're kind of looking at now. So the limited partnership actually holds title to the property, right? That's what happens in the tax credit transaction. That entity is then owned usually 99.99% by an investor limited partner. It could be a tax credit syndicator. It could be that you're getting a direct investment from Wells Fargo, from TCF Bank, you know, Raymond James, you know, whomever, right? And then the general partner either needs to be the CHDO itself, which is permissible under the home rule but uncommon within the tax credit side of the industry, or a wholly owned subsidiary of the CHDO. So in order to come from the CHDO set-aside, the CHDO needs to be the sole and exclusive owner of the general partner entity, and there needs to be only one general partner. So even though ownership of this entity that holds title is 99.99% to the investor, the day-to-day control is with the general partner. Right? That's the way these transactions work. And if that general partner is wholly owned by the CHDO, then that's what makes it eligible for the set-aside. But the PJ will enter into the written agreement and provide the funds directly to the project owner.